So here's something interesting. The Paris 2024 Olympics have had a lot of conversation around them. There's been some negative sentiments towards the preparedness of the city, to the mayor having to even swim in the river to prove that it's safe to do so for the athletes, which was kind of awkward because the triathlon had to be postponed, to security concerns around the opening ceremony, to citywide protests against the games. But with all that conversation, the most polarizing or outsized portion of all conversations around Paris 2024 and the Olympics has been around the money. The amount of money needed to organize such an event, the money lost in previous Olympics, the money paid by sponsors and TV broadcasters, where that ends up and what it's used for, to the little money paid, well, little to no money paid to the athletes who actually win gold, bronze, or silver. Now, in order for us to get an understanding of the money conversation, we need to start with the big numbers. Now, according to the official Paris 2024 website, almost 96% of the budget to organize the Paris 2024 Olympics and the Paralympics comes from the private sector, namely the IOC, partner companies, the games ticket officing and taking, as well as licensing. Now, this was important for the city to get right, as many other Olympic Games have been stated to have put the cities under pressure, leaving them with debts and white elephant infrastructure. Now, the Olympics budget covers every aspect of planning: organizing, delivering the event, including even the renting of premises, preparing and operating the facilities, organizing the competitions, welcoming the delegations, housing and transportation for athletes, providing security at the competition venues, and so much more. Even the opening and closing ceremonies, that money has to come out from the very same existing budget. Now, as a sign of how difficult it is to cover things like budgets for Olympic Games, the operating committee, as recently as 4 months ago before the Games, asked the Ile-de-France if it could cover extra costs of up to 200,000 accredited people, from athletes, officials, journalists, etc. This needed an additional budget of 10 million euros. However, when you kind of look at it, what is clear is that the money to put on the Games is never enough. It never has been. The latest figures show that the spending on the 2024 Paris Olympics is expected to come in at just under, but probably over, $10 billion, or around 9 billion euro, 182 billion rand. They're saying, at least this time, that they only expect the budget to go 25% over budget. Now, this is in sharp contrast to the 2016 Games in Rio and the 2020 Games in Tokyo, which deviated from their original budgeting by 350% and 280% respectively. So in some way, you could actually say that the Games in Paris are likely to be the cheapest Games in a while, especially when you compare them with the $17 billion that was spent in London in 2012, the estimated $28 billion that Tokyo spent in 2021, and the $24 billion that Rio de Janeiro spent in 2016. These were the three most expensive summer games to date. Now, the main advantage to how Paris has done and kind of kept the games cheap is summed up in two things: existing infrastructure. About 95% of the venues that were stated to be used in this Paris Olympics and the Paralympics already existed prior to the city winning the bid to host the games. So only 3 venues were built afterwards. $1.6 billion or 29 billion rand was spent on the Olympic Village. $190 million was spent on the Aquatic Center, and $150 million or 2.7 billion rand was spent on the gymnastics and badminton centers. Now, even though Paris is said to spend a whole lot less than any of the other host cities, one of the main ticket items that they had to spend on was cleaning up of the main river, the Seine. This was at a cost of 1.4 billion euro, or around 27 billion rand. Now, clearing up the river that runs through Europe's most populous city has proved to be quite expensive. Just the southern sewer tank cost 300 million euros. These are some of the costs that you can expect if you're a city. You just have to get things right. For the most recent Summer Games in Tokyo, the IOC received a total of $7.6 billion between 2017 and 2020-21. Media broadcasting rights, how much they brought in from TV rights, accounted for 61% of the revenues. And the top Olympic partners, the corporate sponsors, their program brought in around 30%. Now, an independent study that touted that the IOC concluded that the Paris Games would end up generating between $7.3 billion and $12.1 billion for the city and its surrounding areas between 2018 and 2034. I think they kind of look at a long-term projection because they expect the gains to still keep coming. The big gains are said to be coming from things like tourism, construction, and the organization of the games themselves. Now, not everyone agrees with this, of course. In Paris, already one of the world's top tourist destinations, there's a lot of talk about how sports tourism is actually going to crowd out a lot of the other people who normally come here and visit. For instance, local press have reported and highlighted sectors such as luxury retailers who worry that they will sell fewer handbags, fewer luxury items than they normally do. Maybe because they know that the people who are going to come here don't have as much money as those who usually come here. But be that as it may, the revenue from the Olympics has steadily been rising over the decades. Broadcasting fees have jumped over fourfold since the 1990s, reaching $4.5 billion for Tokyo. Top sponsor revenues, these are the corporate sponsors that partner with the Olympics, that has increased from less than $300 million to $2.3 billion over the same period. So all in all, the games are set to maybe make a loss of up to $2.7 billion or profit of $2 billion. That's a crazy swing of things. You just don't know what you're going to get. Plainly put, these games aren't a sure thing when it comes to the profitability and the money behind it. The only sure thing is that the whole world is watching, and maybe that's a price to pay for Paris to get the attention that it deserves, for France to get the attention. Actually, do you think it makes sense for cities to still want to host the Olympics under this current model? Let us know in the comments. Maybe it does, maybe it matters, right? Think about 2010 in South Africa and the World Cup and what that did for us. Now, with that said, I think we need to look at how much the athletes are going to roughly be getting. And we need to put those numbers into context relative to these numbers so that we can see this crazy perspective. Now look, qualifying for the Olympic Games is an achievement in its own. But added prize money for winning, for instance, a medal makes it even more fulfilling for some athletes because the amount awarded to each medalist or country varies widely. But also sponsorships add to that. You're now more world-renowned. While the IOC itself does not provide monetary reward to the Olympic medalists, many countries provide prize money to the athletes who shine and win something for their country. Winning a medal at the Olympics does pay something. So this is kind of how it works, roughly. Each nation decides how much to allocate to Olympic medalists, and these amounts can change between Olympic cycles. For instance, athletes from Team USA will earn $37,500, around 686,000 Rand for gold, $22,500 or 411,000 for silver, and $15,000, 283,000 Rand for bronze medals. Slightly below the average among the surveyed countries though. But most interestingly for the United States, they don't get taxed on victory income. Since the Obama years, he signed this into law. On average, among 25 countries were surveyed by USA Today Sports, gold medalists on average were set to receive between $95,000, silver $55,000, and bronze $39,000, between 1.7 million Rand and 723,000 Rand. Athletes representing Malaysia, Morocco, and Serbia stand to receive over $200,000, 3.6 million Rand from their national Olympic committees, with Italy offering upwards of $100,000, around 1.8 million Rand. Now, countries such as Poland offer additional incentives, such as things like housing, vacations, or even bonuses for record-breaking performances. Germany and in particular Morocco offer payouts to athletes beyond the top three. Germany rewards those who finish 4th all the way up to 8th place, while Morocco provides bonuses up to 32nd place. It's a very interesting way to look at it. For some countries, different payout structures exist for medalists in team sports versus individual sports. Many athletes also receive contract bonuses from their sponsors in addition to what their country gives them. This is a way that they make more money for their performances. Now, following a little bit of confusion and controversy with regards to performance bonuses at the last Summer Games in Tokyo, SASCOC, the South African Olympic Organizing Committee, formally announced the financial incentives for both the Olympic and the Paralympic Games in May of this year. They wanted to clear things up. And here's what we know. For a South African, if you get gold, you get 400,000 Rand. Your coach gets 100,000 Rand. If you get silver, that's 200,000 Rand to you as the athlete and 50,000 Rand to the coach. And for bronze, you get 75,000 Rand and 25,000 Rand goes to your coach. Now, for relay and team sports, think your hockey and your rugby. For a gold, 100,000 Rand per athlete and the coach. For silver medals, 75,000 Rand per athlete and the coach gets the same. And for bronze medal, 50,000 Rand per athlete, and that's what the coach gets. For boat and dual sports, where there's two people for a gold medal, that's 200,000 Rand per athlete and 100,000 Rand for the coach. For silver medal, 100,000 Rand per athlete and 50,000 Rand per coach. And for a bronze medal, 40,000 Rand per athlete, 20,000 Rand for the coach. And that's what South African athletes are actually set to make. But what is new for the 2024 Olympics? Track and field athletes will receive additional prize money from World Athletics, the sport's international governing body. For the first time ever, this is the first time they've ever done this. World Athletics announced that a gold medalist in all 48 track and field events in Paris will actually get and earn an additional 50,000 US dollars. Now, they funded across all of these sports, these 48 sports, up to 2.4 million US dollars. For relay teams, they're going to split 50,000 US dollars amongst each of the team's gold medalists. Now, this took a lot of people and other sports bodies by surprise, and they didn't speak too kindly at being blindsided by World Athletics on this. But guys, I mean, what's really wrong with paying athletes a little bit more money? It's actually kind of weird if you think about it, because they are generating money. Anyways, me thinks that there's a lot of office greed up there. But how much do you think that athletes should get paid for participation in things like the Olympics? Are these amounts fair, or are they small and feeble? Also, are there any new sports that you're looking forward to watching or have been watching during these Paris 2024 games? How about those stunning venues next to things that you've seen, like the Eiffel Tower, Le Champs-Élysées, La Concorde, and all these amazing Parisian, I'd say, landmarks that we know? What have you really liked and have been watching recently? I know a lot of people have been watching gymnastics. Anyways, thank you for staying so long into this video. I really appreciate your time, and I hope that this was as interesting for you to watch as it was for me to make. Maybe catch one of these other videos on your screen, and hopefully they'll be just as interesting as this one. Cheers.